And we are live for the Steelers Depot live stream here on February 7th, a Monday, as always. Here to answer any and hopefully all of your Steelers questions over the next hour. Myself and Dave Bryan from SteelersDepot.com. Dave, how you doing?
I'm doing good for a Monday. I'm watching, just getting into some Devin Tompkins tape
Mm.
now from Utah State, and I think I'm going to have to turn the AC on and might need a little bit of a cool shower by the end of the night.
I'm sorry to pull you away. I saw that tweet and went, I don't think Dave will be on the live stream tonight, but I'm glad that you could make it and really enjoyed. And we'll talk about it more on Wednesday, maybe a bit tonight as well. Your contextualization of Christian Watson, who seems to be maybe the type of receiver Pittsburgh could use.
And I got 129 more 127 more targets to go on Devin Tompkins. So
Yeah,
going to
Watson
be
was easy, right? Because they didn't throw the ball that much in North Dakota State.
Yeah, 50, 53, 50, 53. I think targets last season for Tompkins there, and he just barely broke the 100 reception mark
Hmm.
for during his career at North Dakota State too, and that's a magic. That 100 number is kind of a magic number when it comes to Steelers wide receivers and drafted. I think they like them to have at least 100 catches during their college career there, so that's kind of significant as well.
I do want to answer questions. And again, as you guys probably know by now, we're here till 8 p.m. So an hour from now, answering as many questions as possible. So leave them in the chat. If you want your question to be guaranteed to be asked and answered, you can send us a super chat. No obligation to do so, of course, but they are appreciated. With Watson, I saw Ben Fennell on Twitter make this comp, and it's a loose comp, I would say, but there's similarities there in terms of just height, weight, speed, and production. A little more Tavis Bryant. Bryant's a guy that didn't have a lot of catches at Clemson, but was that really freaky athlete kind of a dude. I think maybe Bryan a bit freakier though than Watson.
Yeah, and I saw that as well too. What was it this morning? I'm losing track of
Yeah,
my days. Last night or this morning or whatnot.
this
But
morning.
uh, Martavis ran like a deer. I mean, he had that. Watson isn't as smooth as a
Mm,
as a flower get down the field. I'm kind of interested to see what guys like Watson and Romeo Dubs are going to run. Are they going to be able to be sub four, sub 4.4 type guys? I kind of not really sure about it. Now I know both those guys had the nice speeds at the Senior Bowl and all. And look, 40 times obviously is not everything, but when you're trying to if you're gonna make a comp on Martavis Bryant, just the way he ran, man, he just ran so smooth and kind of that long stride. Now, don't get me wrong, Watson can get down the field as well too, but I I think it's a little tough to compare them, that close. It's a loose comparison for sure when you get to Martavis Bryant, and when it get, like I said, I'm really interested to see some of these kids run, like Watson, like Romeo Dubs. This kid Devin Tompkins is going to he's going to fly, man. I'm telling you, he's going to
I
fly.
believe you.
Five, what is it? What I tell you is like 5'8" or something. I think you can take him, Alex. But
I don't know about that.
this kid can fly and he can jump as well too. But definitely, I see Watson as second, third round type receiver. I think Dubs is kind of in around that same
Mhm.
line right there. And I'm obviously looking for guys that can get down the field, make some explosive catches down the field that way.
Right. Last note here. I know the channel's been a bit quiet over the last week or so. Apologize for that. I was down in Mobile, as you guys probably know. So we'll have some more Steelers videos coming up here, I'm sure, in the near future. But let's get to the chat and your guys' question, because that's what we are here for. First one comes from Live Loyal says, what is top priority, fixing the run offense or the run defense, and start where for either? I mean, it's really hard to pick either or. I think trenches overall is going to be an area this team needs to address. I would say might be a bit easier to fix the run defense with, a guy like Tyson Aluwale returning, maybe Stephon Tuitt coming back. We're still unsure of his future status. The growth and development of younger guys like Isaiah Loudermilk, obviously work to do from an off-ball perspective, but I think overall health and maturation makes it easier to solve the run defense issues than it's going to be for the rushing offense issues, where you're going to really need to probably bring in some outside talent and some aggressive outside talent, early draft capital and things like that to see big strides there with this rushing attack improve.
The answer to the question is
Yes.
yes.
I knew that was coming.
However, you got to go about doing it. Now, where they sit from a draft capital standpoint, right now, probably going to make it kind of tough. So, unless they, pick up some picks around here somehow, somewhere, they're going to have to make strides via both the draft and free agency to some degree. Now, do I expect them to go hog wild in free agency? No, I don't, because look, I mean, are you really gonna spend top dollar on a defensive end? Maybe that you might bring in that might rival what a guy like Cameron Hayward's making. It's just not the Steelers' way, really, to
Hmm.
do that kind of stuff. Now could you might get a starter, kind of a lower end kind of guy, starter? Well, you get what you pay for that way as well too. So I realize that a lot of people are anxiously spending this cap space that the Steelers have. Or should have come time free agency, but I think what you're more likely to see is volume, maybe more volume when it comes to free agency, as opposed to high dollar kind of hit type player. I'm not saying that you won't have one. You might have, who knows, maybe you might have a corner or something like that. But and maybe a tackle would make sense for sure
Hmm.
if they went that route. But uh, they're going to have to address the offensive line and defensive line, I think, both via
Yeah.
either or the draft or free agency, and it might take using both to get all the holes
Sure.
filled.
And they need to be more aggressive with the offensive line, especially. They got to take some swings and some bigger chances, some bigger risks, some bigger
Let
money.
Real quick, is you're going I'm going through seeing a lot of these rankings of free agents. It's that time of year where
Hmm.
top 50, top 75, top 100 free agents of the offseason. Should Chikwama Okorafor be in even a top 75 list?
I mean, I haven't looked
I
at the whole list.
Yeah, I
I'm
know you
pulling up
really
the one
haven't
from
looked.
the
Yeah.
Athletic. To me, I phrased it as he's a decent. He's the best tackle on a bad line. He's the worst tackle on a or worst lineman on a good line, and so he's kind of been more of that best player on a bad line camp this year. To me, I think he's pretty maxed out. I think he's got issues in the run and pass game. He's a marginal guy who probably will get paid a little too much because of the O lineman tax this offseason.
Well, I mean, supply and demand, right? And it only
Right.
takes one team. There's probably going to be a team out there that likes him. At
Sure.
least maybe likes him better,
Yeah,
better
there
than
are other options.
better than the Steelers. What kind of chances would you put on him being re-signed? Zero?
No,
Not
no,
zero,
no,
right?
no, I wouldn't say zero. Less than 50%. I think there is a chance. But like I said, if you want real change with this offensive line, I get some of its growth and development from guys like, Moore, even Dotson, a third year guy who got limited by injury this year. But you got to make some big changes. You just can't keep bringing back the same groups and expecting this group to grow by leaps and bounds. Look at the Chiefs. They retooled everything. And Pittsburgh tried to do the same, but at a cheaper cost, and you get what you pay for.
Hmm.
All right, next question comment comes from Mike Adesso, always here in the chat. Comment first. Kudos to the whole Depot team, absolutely killing it from Vegas and Mobile, guys. What a team you have, and it's also it's clear Dave and Alex are handling the team with class, and they are appreciative. Absolutely, everyone did a fantastic job. So really proud of the work we've done over the last 2 weeks. His question is I love seeing Tomlin mixing it up on the field with these players, but how is that allowed? He's basically doing what the Jets Lions staff is. No, what's the difference just on game day? No one's stopping him. I mean, you're allowed to be on the field, interact with these players, and you kind of get that. You're Mike Tomlin. You kind of get the ability to do those things. You can pull the Tomlin card, so you love it. And on that rainy Wednesday, I mean, a lot of coaches were trying to be on the field, but Tomlin's out there. The dude just loves football, and so he gets the extra benefit of getting to talk to those guys and see those guys up close and personal because he's one of the few guys willing to stand in the pouring rain and wind.
That guy loves the process. I
He
said that
does,
on
yeah,
on
really
the
does.
podcast. That guy might like the off season better than he likes in season. I don't know, but he loves the process. So kudos to him. And yeah, I think the players. I think the players sense that. He's constantly you hear players talk about the one of the coaches he most likely or most would like to probably play for is him. As far as the team in Mobile and Vegas. man, all that hard work that I put into us to point people in the right direction and over manage them, it really paid off. No, I'm kidding. There, when you have good people like that, you don't have to do anything. You just sit back and marvel at all the hard work that they do, and I'm super blessed. And man, had four down in Mobile this year, had three out in Las Vegas this year. We hope to send at least one, maybe two to the combine this year. That'll also be the first for us. We're waiting to hear back on that as well too. So uh, not a bad little operation from mom's basement.
Yeah, not too shabby. Couple of super chats here. Really appreciative of that. $5 super chat from Tim Chase. Isn't a 35-year-old nose tackle a huge risk? Referring to Tyson Alualu. Really need to draft his future replacement. Can you give me a name or two? I get that, but the guy hasn't played like he's 35. I know he's coming off a serious injury, and also the comfort of signing him on Travis Adams and assuming you can keep him this offseason, having him as a good backup, rotational type of guy makes you feel more comfortable about having those two guys and not having the urgency to add another nose tackle high. Obviously, Jordan Davis from Georgia will get talked about quite a bit, potential first round kind of a guy. I don't have other great names for you right now, top of my head. But if you, assuming you bring back Adams, I'm pretty comfortable with those two guys.
I would agree.
And then Stanley 112803, another $5 super chat. Thank you so much. Do y'all think the Steelers will focus on both lines in the draft and forego drafting a quarterback this year? Also, we need an inside linebacker. You're right, they need a lot of things. They need help, offensive line, maybe defensive line, inside linebacker for sure. But quarterback is still the priority. And so if there is a franchise guy, if there's a guy they love, they feel like can be a long-term option for this team, it's really impossible to pass on that kind of a guy because he is going to be the engine of your team. And so if that guy's not there, then you focus on other areas for sure. But quarterback comes first above all else.
Man, there's so many holes that this team has got to fill this offseason, and it's going to start right before free agency to see which one of their own free agents that they're going to be able to sign. Are they going to be able to get back? Will they re-sign a guy like Terrell Edmonds? I think there's a decent chance of that happening, even though a lot of fans are probably not going to want to hear that. I think there is a chance because look, if you don't, then what do you got to do? You got to go out and find you another strong safety type, right?
Hmm.
Either via the draft or free agency there. So I mean, what happens with the in the 2 weeks or so, or right there at the time that free agency starts, is one phase of it. Obviously, you're going to get about 2 or 3 weeks into free agency. That's going to see what kind of shopping this team does right out of the chute. That's another phase of it, and then obviously by that time we'll be getting around to the draft, and it should be a lot more crystal clear about what kind of positional way they're going to go that way. So this is one of the most crucial off seasons in a while. I think that this team has had. Obviously, we'll have kind of the most of the more cap space than usual here. But on the flip side, it's not like this is a roster that's just one or two spots away, three
Right.
spots away. There are a lot of holes to fill. So I don't think you can definitively say they're going to go this way in the draft with these positions and this way in free agency just yet. I mean, you would, and as far as a defensive tackle, someone had asked about a nose tackle and all like that. You know, that if you did address that position in the draft, I wouldn't expect it to happen in the first round because nose tackles aren't on the field, every down. So, do you really want to spend a first round pick on a true nose tackle that's not going to be on the field that much? Probably not there. But make no mistake about it, it should be fun to watch kind of the three phases of this thing. Like I said, about the 2 weeks before free agency starts, the 2 weeks after free agency gets underway, and then by the time draft rolls around, we should have probably a pretty decent
Yeah.
idea which way they'll go positionally.
Yeah, it's a really solid breakdown and a good salient point about free agency and how that's going to shape your draft needs. Of course, this team with a little bit of money to play with could sign one or two guys that may take some of those needs off the board. And usually they try to do some of that in free agency. And so it's not as super obvious and as urgent when it comes to the draft. And so it's a process. And so it's hard to make those declarations about the draft before you get to free agency. Let's see. Next question comes from Gregory Simmons. Your quarterback of choice. So this is a multi-part. Which would you rather have question? Your quarterback of choice, your O lineman of choice, or your defensive lineman of choice with the 20th pick. The Steelers
Oh
choose
Lord.
what position? I don't have the name for you, but obviously, like I said, quarterback being the engine of your team, it's hard not to go quarterback here. So obviously, that's a hypothetical that'll never come to fruition. But broadly speaking, quarterback is obviously the most valuable position on your team.
Oh yeah, I mean, look, and we don't know how this team's going to feel. I mean, obviously, if they do feel like, uh, if they feel there's a quarterback that they've got to have in this draft, a certain one or two of them, then yeah, they should lock in on it, for sure. And I don't think you can completely rule out this team maybe trying to trade up if they have a guy or two that they like. The worst thing that they can do though, obviously, is sit down there at that 20 spot and say, well, these two off the board, we kind of like this third. It better be your guy. you
Mhm.
know uh it better be your guy. And look, we don't know how free agency is going to play out ahead of that. Now if you go get a guy, let's just use for a loose example Marcus Mariota, that even if you sign him to a 2 or 3 year deal, you're probably not going to break the bank and put yourself in a lot of future risk with guaranteed money there. Now that would not prevent you from going into the draft and still spending first round pick on a guy.
Mhm.
However, if you went and you traded for somebody, with all the speculation obviously about Jimmy G's the hot name everybody's speculating about right now. But even so, are you going to trade for a guy with over $20 million cap hit that only has 1 year on his contract remaining? That's a lot to that's whatever the draft capital is. It's a lot to kind of give up for that kind of cap hit for a potential 1 year player. So if you did trade for a guy like that, you would think that they would sign him to an extension right away and then forego the position at the draft. So once again, I think you're going to get into a position whereas kind of these stages develop of the pre-draft process, and that includes the 2 weeks before free agency to 2 weeks after free agency, then I think you're going to get a better idea. Well, there's a pretty good chance this team could maybe draft a quarterback in the first round this year. But until we get to that point, it's hard to say. Yeah, that's going to do it. And as far as quarterbacks, where I'm at right now, I've studied obviously Carson Strong the most, and then at this point I'm Malik Willis is probably the second most amount of film that I've watched, and then Kenny Pickett's probably about the third amount of film. And I think Malik has the highest ceiling,
Mhm.
of those guys. But man, for every ounce of good wow plays that he has on tape, he's got like one and a half of holy moly, why did he do that?
Yeah, yeah, that's going to be the thing with him. It's just consistency in this game for sure. David Kapoor, Rams or Bungles? I don't really root for any team that's not Pittsburgh, but you will not find me rooting for the Bengals. So I'm going to go with the Rams on this one, Dave.
Yeah, from a rooting aspect, we'll have to see what the dead presidents have to say
Mm.
about the matter. But as far as rooting interest goes, how could you not root for a guy like Aaron Donald and I've always kind of liked Matthew Stafford as well too, and their left tackle Andrew.
Whitworth, yeah,
Uh,
40
uh,
years old playing left tackle.
yeah, yeah. I mean, that how can he not like that
Hmm.
guy and kind of obviously being a long time Bengal and all the storyline that kind of goes with that as well too. So I will be rooting. My heart will be rooting for the Rams, and we'll have to see what the dead presidents tell me.
Yeah, but if the Bengals do win, of course, Tyler Boyd, local kid, Mike Hilton will be happy for him, but I'm not going to root for the Bengals. Sorry, can't do it. I hate fracking says pick the best available in the first round. We need some in every position. So his very clear terms about BPA and fracking. So we know his opinions on both of those. C Bizzle Nizzle, good to hear from you. With the addition of Kyler Murray, who should the Steelers target in the first round? So I'm going to assume that's a tongue in cheek comment. And yeah, I don't know what's going on with Kyler. It's always hard to judge those social media, happenings and deleting his account or scrubbing all Cardinal stuff. I have no idea what's going to happen with Kyler Murray.
Some are saying that he never even followed the Cardinals in the first place on IG. That this might be a shock that maybe the media is kind of blowing this out of proportion,
Yeah.
Alex.
Well, he's
It's
doing something. Obviously, he deleted this. I mean, who knows? But he
well,
did delete
maybe he got
photos and
hacked. Maybe he has somebody that runs his
yeah,
account that's
sure.
just cleaning it out or what.
Right.
Who knows? You know.
Yeah, it's a storylines that I wish we wouldn't have to talk about. I'm glad we don't have to talk about as much as Cardinals fans have to
Look, they've
discuss.
got a big decision to come up. They got to decide whether or not to pick up his fifth year option this offseason. And do they like him enough to give him a long term deal before he even gets to that point? So I mean, we'll see. But they do have a big decision to make with Kyler Murray this offseason.
I think you pick it up. I'm not sure how you don't. I know there's some up and down in his game, but the highs are super high. So I have to think that they'll pay, at least pick up that option.
Right. I
Uh,
would think that they would. And obviously it becomes fully guaranteed when they do. But I don't think he's been awful where you don't pick that
no,
up and at
right.
least give him another year to kind of see what happens with it.
Paul Brown, don't know if you covered this. Does Deontay get the bonus for making the Pro Bowl, even though he wasn't originally voted in? Injury or no, a replacement for Chase because of Super Bowl. Dave, how does that work for Pro Bowl bonuses?
I
Don't think
as,
he
as
gets it.
is Paul talking about maybe
The
the proven
PPE.
performance escalator?
I doesn't. Maybe he can specify, but let's assume that he is here.
Okay, the proven performance escalator has different stages to it now, as far as kind of the latest CBA, and part of that for Deontay to had qualified for that for the Pro Bowl portion of it, he would have had to have been an original selection to the Pro Bowl. So by him being named to the Pro Bowl as an alternate, that does not impact the level. Deontay's still going to get a bump because he did qualify from the snap percentage aspect of the proven performance escalator. But had he made the Pro Bowl on the original selection, he would have had another bump in there as well too. But making it as an alternate does not allow him to reach that level of the Pro Bowl for the proven performance
Okay,
escalator.
gotcha.
That's why he's probably pretty miffed that he didn't make it
Mm,
for starters because
good
it
point.
cost him a little bit of money there by getting quote unquote snubbed, if you will.
Cost him almost $1 million, right? Wasn't that the
Yeah,
number on that?
pretty
Yeah.
close to that, I think.
I'd be mad too. Brett says, "Hey guys, thanks for doing this live stream. What do you feel is a bigger need along the O line, center, or tackle, and who would you target for those two positions in the draft? Specifically, it'll be hard for us to answer maybe some of those right now. Toss out a couple names, but just more broadly, Dave, what do you see as the bigger need, center or tackle? And let's assume that a core four is not re-signed under this question."
Oh man, I mean, six or one, half a dozen the other there. Really, I mean, this team really could use another
Hmm.
really good tackle. Uh, but in the same breath, they better address the center position somehow, some way, and especially as some sort of fallback mechanism if indeed they intend on moving forward with Kendrick Green. If you don't do something at least to provide yourself some better insurance against Kendrick Green this offseason, you've done it wrong. So uh, I think they would probably be more apt to go tackle in the draft and center in free agency would from where I sit right now, I would think that that would probably be the way that they attack it.
Yeah, I think you would like a more veteran presence at center, especially with a new potential rookie quarterback. Now, granted, the center would be new, but just having more veteran guys going to make it a bit easier overall. Both are big needs. Positionally, what's more valuable, a tackle or a center? To me, it's a tackle. I don't underestimate or undervalue the value centers have been in Pittsburgh. Have had, Pouncey and Hardings and Dawson, Mansfield, Webby, guys like that. But overall tackle is going to be the more important guy to get right than it's going to be at center. Easier to hide that center than it's going to be to hide a bad tackle. But both need to be addressed in some, I think, pretty aggressive form or fashion, assuming that our core four is not re-signed.
And listen, if you don't re-sign a core for and you don't draft a tackle in the first round, Are you really going to spend a second or third? And look, I mean, Dan Moore Jr. You can't convince me that the plan was for him originally to start play all season. Start at left tackle throughout. The moment he was drafted, things happen obviously, and things did happen with the Steelers there, and notably with Zach Banner there. Uh, but once again, I don't think you could. I don't think you go in if you go into this draft with the idea that you need a tackle. You, my thought is you better get one in the first and second round, especially if
Mhm.
you expect that kid to turn around and start right out of the chute, which that's a lot to ask, I think, too. So, I'm not saying that's not the way they're going to go. They could obviously draft a second or third round tackle, let him sit for a couple weeks, and then ease them in that way. I just find it hard to believe that, barring injury or something, kind of a repeat of last year, that we're set to watch another young tackle go wire to wire as a starter.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think again, you want to be aggressive, go early. You did the more mid-round thing last year with middling results. You got to really attack O line heavy. I think for agency and the draft with your early draft picks this year. If quarterback is not going to be a position that you are able to address.
When's the
Uh,
last time the Steelers drafted a tackle in the first round?
it's been a while, right?
Yeah,
Because
it's
Gilbert
been a
was a
long
second round
while.
pick. Ah, God, was Marvel Smith? No, he wasn't a first round pick, was he? I don't think Marvel Smith was. Starks was not a first round pick, right?
No.
No, he wasn't a first round pick. It's not like Stevens or something back in the 90s, right? It's not like Jermaine Stevens.
Let's see. First round tackles. Let's see here, because Mike Adams was second round, right?
Yeah, yeah, and begged
And
Pittsburgh to
that
draft him.
that was overdrafted. They
Yeah,
overdrafted him as well there. Marvell was second round.
okay, he was second round.
Boy, you got to go back.
Pre Colbert was this pre?
Jermaine, yeah, Jermaine
It
Stevens,
was
I think,
was it
right?
Jermaine Stevens in
Jermaine Stevens,
'92,
96.
'96? I always get the year wrong. Really? Wow.
Yeah.
All right, and
So
that
that's the last time they took. Now, obviously, they took Kendall Simmons was a guard coming out of
yeah,
Auburn
Danica
in 2002, and
Pouncey.
Faneca obviously was a guard. Pouncey was a center, or guard slash center. Uh, but yeah, that's it. DeCastro obviously a guard.
Yeah,
So you got to go all the way back to pre Colbert to the last time this team took a tackle in the first round.
and not a great one. It's our new Chad Scott, apparently.
Mm.
Let's see, Matt Boatwright, best podcast for Steelers info, more 2+ hour pods. Matt might be the only one saying that. We appreciate it. Get Alex a girlfriend with many, far too many exclamation points. Let's go. I don't know if that's let's go for the girlfriend comment or the podcast or all the above, but thank you, Matt. Jarrell Harris, Alex, what do you think about Malik? Honest thoughts. I thought he had a good week in Mobile. I think some people overstated how good of a week that was. I think lower body mechanics need work, throwing off platform when he does not need to. But there's good velocity, there's good burst. I like his decision making, I like his demeanor. I thought he had a good interview on the sideline during the game, talking about him not being worried about where he gets picked, just trying to be better, make everyone else better. So overall, a good week for Willis. I'm not gonna pretend like it was the best performance ever, though, from him.
No, I don't think you got. You just didn't want to see awful stuff from him. I think more than anything. In Mobile, I think he kind of is who he was, at least in a little bit that I've seen of him. And look, like I've said, I have watched a lot of his tape now. This last week, every moment I got, I tried to put on, some sort of Liberty game and have it running. And uh, he can might make off schedule plays for sure. He and look, just in a couple times in the actual Senior Bowl, he took off with the football. He did a lot of that obviously at Liberty as well too. His athleticism is not the athleticism of a Lamar Jackson, but he can obviously get down the field and with it, use his legs and make some people miss and create some plays that way. The problem is out of structure. you know, You'd like to see him use it, keep his eyes downfield and not miss some big plays that he could potentially make by not. using his feet. He is a guy that reads, to me, that reads his wide receivers and doesn't read the defense. There's a lot of times those balls got to come out a lot quicker, and you can get away with that stuff at Liberty.
Yeah.
But you can't be late on the ball in the NFL. And plus, kind of the Mickey Mouse kind of offense that they ran there at Liberty wasn't too extensive. Didn't require him to. He has got a lot to learn about football in general and playing the quarterback position at the NFL level.
How
So
many years did he start? Do you know how many years he started in
there
college?
was
2?
there's two at Liberty, and what was he like? He never was a starter at Auburn, right? That's why
I
he
don't believe
that
so,
that
transferred,
that's
yeah.
why he got out of there, because he was behind uh, one of the kids there, and wasn't going to get the opportunity to start. So that's why he went into the transfer portal out of Auburn, because
Okay.
he wasn't going to get the playing time that he wanted. So he spent the last 2 years at Liberty there. Now he's got an arm, but it's also kind of an arm. And I talked to Cody last week on the podcast. The accuracy could use a little bit of help in there. The arms, to me, kind of the arms, not really the issue. He, in my opinion, from what I've seen so far, has the highest ceiling of, man, what can this kid possibly become?
Mhm.
But it's also dangerous too, because it's hard to quantify what he can become. On top of it, if you draft that kid, there, in my opinion, you are going to hurt him if you get him behind center right away. If at all possible, you want that kid to sit. Maybe you bring him in situationally. You could come up with some packages to use him situationally, I think. But any team that drafts him, I think, should do so with the idea of letting him sit his rookie season.
Yeah, there's been a lot of Jalen Hurts comps to Malik Willis, and the more I hear you talk about kind of what path he needs, it very much sounds like the path that Hurts has taken, and seems to be a pretty accurate comparison between those two
I
guys.
I wasn't huge on Hurts coming out, but as you and I have talked on the podcast, I mean, he's another one of those this season that kind of raise your eyebrows. He makes a couple of plays for you, but then you turn around and he makes a couple of those boneheaded plays on top
Yeah,
of it there. So there was some highs and some lows with him. And would he have been a guy that may have benefited more by having sat more? I mean, who knows how to answer that
yeah.
question?
Well, you can really only sit a year in today's NFL. If you
Right,
sit more than a year, people start wondering who you even are. So that's kind of
right.
what you get.
You will get some mistakes, a lot of mistakes with Malik if you play him his rookie season, and you'll get a couple. Wow, I can't believe he made that play. Kind of plays too. That the kind that you need to have made in the NFL. The problem is can you limit those bad plays that not turn into pick sixes on you,
Mhm.
and those kind of things there. But I mean, he's got a ceiling to him. He's got, in my opinion, probably the highest ceiling of any quarterback in this class. The problem is where he is right now. You know, I just don't see how you could start him right out of the
Yeah.
chute.
Joshua Jenkins, hey guys, since the quarterback draft class is questionable this year, but Tomlin seems to like mobile guys like Malik, could you see the Steelers drafting quarterback 2 years in a row? No, if they're going to draft, Malik Willis or any other quarterback in the first round, they're not going to go ahead and draft another quarterback in the first round next year, barring something extreme happening. So, very, very unlikely there, Joshua.
Yeah, I would say that's unlikely.
Jason Bodie with his weekly or bi-weekly, I should say, hello Daleks. What do y'all expect the Steelers to do at inside linebacker, specifically with Devin Bush? Is he worthy of another year? I like Spillane, but the guy from Cleveland can kick rocks, in my opinion. Of course, referring to Joe Schobert. Bush's fifth-year option will be declined, so this will be the last year of his rookie contract. I think Bush probably still starts next year, at least is given a strong opportunity to start. I think they have to add somebody though. I don't think you can run this group back. Schaubert's contract's too much. Spillane is a rotational guy, and that's kind of all that he is. You're gonna have to add somebody to try to do something different with this group.
I know they kind of off the field and all like that. I'm not so sure. I don't throw a wad of money at Zach Cunningham.
Okay, yeah, it might not even cost all that much. I mean,
Right.
yeah, not gonna be super super pricey.
maybe a 2-year deal there or something like that to get me by. But uh, who the heck knows what what this team has in Buddy Johnson right now? Uh, UG3, are you telling me that you can maybe carve out more snaps for him potentially? Marcus Allen's not obviously not the future there. It's a you know what it is? It's a mess. And it's
Yeah.
one of those things that they're going to have to figure out this offseason. Uh, you never, you know, uh, we'll see what Devin Bush if he can bounce back at all. But he's definitely not going to bounce back unless you can keep trash off of him there. But going back, his rookie. There's a lot of hyperbole when you speak about Devin Bush in his rookie season, in my opinion. There, but no, they're not going. They shouldn't pick up his 5th-year option. And then at least they'll have a lot of incentive, a la kind of what they've done in the past with some of these guys, Artie Burns and others that they didn't pick up their 5th-year option. Just keep your fingers crossed. But you got to have somebody playing next to them, and you better have some depth as well, too there. So that's one of those positions that I don't know. You got what can you better know? Do you know what Buddy can give you right now? You better figure that out real quick before the draft.
Yeah, obviously you don't want to forget about him, but he has a fourth round pick, and that's not going to move the needle so much that it's going to prevent me from making a free agent signing or potential, day two type of draft pick. The guy played 6 defensive snaps last season. But yeah, there'll have to be something. Something has to happen there, if you ask me.
Zach
Leading.
Cunningham about $6 or $7 million or what?
Yeah, I don't have a
That
great
too
feel for
much?
what his market is. I mean, that maybe sounds about right, maybe a little bit less. There's some off the field stuff though with Cunningham. You'll have
Right.
to vet is the reason why the Texans booted him there. Leedy one says, "How bad do you think we will be this year? Because I sadly see us going 1-16 after the
Ooh,
new DC hire. So Terrell Austin apparently is tanking this team. Dave, we're going to be
ooh.
trashed for 3+ years thanks to the capitalized circus for an office wearing emoji. So Terrell Austin has apparently tanked this team from being a wild card team to 1-16.
Wow. I'm not that
So."
low on them. No.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of how good or bad they'll be, let's get through
I
the whole
don't think they're winning.
offseason.
I don't think they're winning the Super Bowl, and I don't think they're making a long playoff, a playoff run in 2022. Look, I mean, they did good to sneak into the playoffs this year. Uh, I mean, you got a lot of holes, and as bad as I think that they might be in 2022. Yeah, a lot would happen for me to get them around the 1-16 mark.
Yeah, they're not going to be 16-1. They won't be 1-16. Not sure I'll tell you that much. C Bizzle Nizzle, $5 super chat with the mess at inside linebacker and bringing in a new DC, although it's a promotion, but point taken. Any chance we see this team shift away from the traditional 3-4? Thanks, guys. You are the best. Appreciate those comments, C Bizzle Nizzle. No, I think it'll generally be the same structure just because you already have the pieces in place the Watts, the Haywards, Highsmith ascending. And really the lines have blurred between 3-4 and 4-3. They're, guys are playing with their hand down a lot, so it's more of a 5-2 and oftentimes in your base defense. So I don't think you'll see structurally a big difference there.
Yeah, I'm with you.
Although, do you see is this like the official death of the fire zone? Because they still ran some fire zones even last year under Butler, but he's like the last piece of that LeBeau Butler, fire zone tree. And so I wonder if that kind of shrivels up even more. We'll see.
Yeah, good point. We'll see.
Let's see. Scroll back up here to a couple more questions. Todd says Edmonds is not that bad. Why does he bring so much hate? Just because not living up to the first round pick that he was built to be, and it was a surprise at the time. People viewed him as a day two guy. They take him late in the first round, and he's had his struggles and issues. Got thrown into the fire right away as a rookie when Burnett got hurt, and had to play a lot of football since. So it's just not living up to the hype of being. If it was a day two guy, people would be happy with him. But a day one guy isn't elite, then people get mad.
Right.
That's just how it goes. Evans has improved though, and we'll see if the
Yeah,
team
him probably
resigns him.
wanting to rap or whatnot probably hasn't helped him with the fan base either and all like that. And uh, yeah, I think it all started from the day he was drafted, really,
Yeah,
with the fan base with him. Because the consensus seemed to be that he was overdrafted, and that he's never, he would have had to create a lot of turnovers to get past that.
right. And he does not do that. Tim
He
Chase,
he
we're
has he has improved every season that he's
mhm.
played though.
Yeah, he has, but obviously he's not a big time playmaker. Tim Chase, where in last year's draft would you guess this group of quarterbacks would have been drafted? Probably behind that initial crop of the Wilsons and the Lawrences and the Mac Jones, this group. I'm not sure if any of these guys would have been taken ahead of the names I just mentioned, Justin Fields, etc.
I'm with you. I'm with you. And what does that say? But here's the thing: quarterbacks in the draft, regardless of what class and how bad they are, there's always going to be two or three of them at least drafted because of necessity and teams thinking that they can fix them, or maybe that's the silver bullet that will save their job.
Hmm.
Those kind of things there. But I have seen nothing yet that makes me think that any of these, maybe compared to recent classes, would have been, oh, that guy would have fit in perfectly between, let's say, Lawrence and whoever,
Right.
those first round guys.
Yeah, I have to imagine if you're a front office guy, coach, there's a lot of pressure if you don't have that franchise quarterback of that's the elephant in the
Sure.
room. You have to get one. If you don't have one, your season's only going to be so good, and your job could be on the line. So I can only imagine what that pressure feels like. Let's see
Sure, if
next.
you, especially if you're a team that's not patient, obviously the Steelers have stability, and one drafting of a bad quarterback isn't going to probably be the end of
Hmm.
your tenure in Pittsburgh at all. But some of these franchises know that they got to win.
Yeah.
And if they don't hit with, if you don't have a quarterback, odds are you're not going to win. So uh, that's why you end up having them, for lack of a better word, reach. I mean, look at the Brandon Whedons. I mean, go down and look, just quarterbacks in general, year in, year out. How many of those guys are going to become, on in any given year, are going to be franchise guys? It's rare that you have what you had happen in like the 2004 class, right?
Hmm.
And I mean, it's rare for classes to come along where you get so many guys that kind of hit like that, especially in today's NFL now, where that 2004 was more pocket passer, and oh yeah, if you had a pocket passer that can extend the play even better. But now you feel like you're at a disadvantage if you don't have a quarterback that can, as Mike Tomlin has told us over and over again for the last 14 weeks.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah, that's a really good point there, Dave. Ryan Wilson, in your quarterback evaluations, do you place any emphasis on clutch factor, meaning how they function in high leverage situations? Is there value in tracking this, and does it translate? I'm sure the analytic crowd will rejects the idea of clutch and those kinds of things, but I think as a coach, as someone beyond just the numbers looks at that, and that does play a role in the evaluation how quarterbacks perform in those marquee, bright light type of moments. So how do you quantify that? You really can't. I mean, I'm sure there's probably some way to do that and to have, score win probability, things like that. But there is, to me at least, value in that.
Look, when it comes to how we evaluate, there is no hard checklist per se positionally, that our guys go through. Every year's a learning experience in this thing, and you never ever will have it. Once you accept the fact that you're never going to have it mastered, it makes it a little bit easier too. You just go into it knowing that I try to get a little bit better evaluating these guys than I did the year before. On top of it, you have the time aspect of it too. Not everybody can sit like me and just roll these games just constantly through them. And even I, rolling through them, how many can I watch in a day and chart successfully, and those kind of things there too. So you have a time. NFL teams. That's what scouting departments do all year. You have a guy probably you know. Dedicated more so to quarterbacks or something, and obviously regions of the country and all
Hmm.
like that. And you have huge notebooks and binders put together on a lot of these guys. Steelers Depot has not reached that point just yet.
There is no
you know,
West area scout in Steelers
right,
Depot. I
right,
guess you are kind of
right.
the West area scout.
I am the Las Vegas Metroplex
Hmm.
version of it. But look, we try to watch kind of as many games as we can, and just learn from past evaluations and all like that. Look, the hot button this year on quarterbacks is obviously, can you push the football down the field effectively and play out a structure, and those kind of things. So that's what we're factoring in. And some yeah, you're going to look at, or at least try to maybe to look at maybe quote unquote a clutch factor, and how what was this quarterback able to lead the team back from behind in the fourth quarter a couple times and that kind of thing.
About 15 minutes left in today's live stream, so be sure to get your questions sent in ASAP. This one seems more rhetorical, but I'll read it anyway. What will it take for the Roonies to get over Mike Tomlin and consider his replacement? Mike is so smooth with his words, I wouldn't be surprised if he has all of the Roonies under a spell. So Tomlin with some black magic or dark magic, I don't know what's going on there with the comment there. Tomlin's not going anywhere. I'm sorry to say, he's not a witch. He's not on anyone's spell. The guy's never lost that locker room in, his whole tenure since '07. So there are criticisms of him for sure, and there's been disappointment and underachievement with this team. There's no question about that. But if you're waiting for Tomlin to get fired, you're gonna be waiting a while.
Oh, Tomlin into the voodoo or something? Is that what he's
It's
saying?
under a spell, apparently. That's the comment.
Okay,
Um,
go ahead,
Yeah.
Alex. Carry on.
Mike Odessa, would you trade up for Devin Lloyd, the Utah linebacker? He was not at the Senior Bowl. He was invited, had accepted, but I think there was an injury or something. Dave, would you trade up for Devin Lloyd the way that this team traded up for Devin Bush and have the Devins play next to each other?
Have we reached that portion already here? I mean, I'd like to watch a lot. I mean, I've watched some cut-ups from him, and that's it. I have a lot to learn about him, so I'm going to pass on giving an answer to that because it's February the 7th right now.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't trade up for any non-quarterback. I'm not even convinced I would trade up for a quarterback, but I'm not sure if there's another guy I'm going to love so much. Maybe the Mississippi State tackle that I'm going to really trade because you're trading future picks, and if you want to go for a quarterback in next year's class, it's going to be harder to do. So probably not. Probably not there, Mike. Zane's
And look,
toy.
I think it would, more than anything. Look, I don't think you trade up for guys like up that high for off the ball linebackers and running backs and things of that nature. I think if you're trading up, I think it goes back to the age old thing that the Bill Parcells said with kind of those early draft picks. You draft a quarterback, you draft a player that can protect the quarterback, meaning a tackle, or you draft a player that can get after the quarterback and put him on the ground like an edge rusher. To me, those are the three positions I think I would consider trading up for, period.
Yeah.
End of story.
And that's just like a broad statement you would have for any team, not just even Pittsburgh, right? That's just like your
Hmm.
overall philosophy. Okay. Yeah, I agree. I
Yep.
think that's a fair way to look at it. Zane's toy review. Do you guys think Juju is leaving? And if so, where? Dave, when I was gone, saw some commentary about Juju saying Dallas seemed like a nice place and the Steelers still have their wooden lockers.
Look, I think it's 50-50 of whether or not he can return. It's not, it's not obviously from a cap perspective and all. The Steelers should be able to afford him to return. But what's his market value? He signed what was essentially a 1 year, $8 million deal last offseason. He only had 15 catches this offseason. Obviously missed a lot of time with that shoulder injury. Did a great job of getting himself back for that playoff game to show teams that, hey, this means a lot to me. I love football. The guy's a very likable kid. A guy does tremendous work out of the slot, especially after the catch kind of thing. But there's still enough there that's going to keep his market value down. And within that, he's not getting any younger. At some point, you've got to decide. I need a little bit more guaranteed money. I got to take a bite of this apple more than going these 1 year deals. So it's going to be. I don't know which way it's going to turn out with him. He would be silly not to at least address free agency again, unless the Steelers blow his socks off
Hmm.
with a deal, which that's kind of a what do they call it, oxymoron kind of statement there. Steelers blowing a wide receivers, uh, uh, you know, uh, uh, socks off with a deal prior to free agency. I just don't see that happening. So I would expect Juju. Well, look, I mean, for one thing, is his contract set to expire 5 days after the Super Bowl, and assuming they don't get him re-signed before the start of the new league year, then he becomes an unrestricted free agent. There, he would be foolish not to test free agency and then kind of see what's out there again. So I from where I sit right now, it's a 50-50 proposition whether or not he comes back. Now, James Washington's probably not going to come back. I can say that with probably some bit of certainty there. And if if this team's going to probably draft a wide receiver, what's going to happen with Ray McLeod as well too there. So going to be interesting to see what transpires. I'd give it a 50-50 shot right now with Juju.
Yeah, I was 50-50 on Juju, but hearing some of those comments and of course starting over at the quarterback position that may not be resolved until, the draft potentially, I think it's more likely Juju leaves than stays. So I don't know what percentage to put that at, 70-30, maybe leave versus staying, but hearing those comments made me think that Juju, he came back for 1 year, ran it out with Ben and might go somewhere else. And so that's kind of my feeling right now. But we'll see. Jonathan Mason, what do y'all think we will see change the most with the offense without Ben? I, for one, am hoping for more route concepts besides quick slants, bubble screens, and go down the right sideline. Yeah, you probably see more of the boot game. That's been a pretty heavy staple of Canada's offense. They ran some of it with Ben, but not as effectively as I'm sure they would have liked to. So that's going to be one change. It'll be tailored to who that specific quarterback is and their strengths and weaknesses and experience and things like that. Maybe some more vertical shots, push the ball downfield, quick or a slower snap to release time instead of the 2.2, 2.3 like Ben the last 2 years. But until you really find that quarterback and know who that quarterback is, it's hard to really nail down that answer.
Right.
Couple more questions here. 10 minutes left, so be sure to put them in the chat. David O. Jermaine Stevens, number 640 on my updated all-time Steelers list. That feels high for the Kai Cowher cut real early in the training camp there. It was Bo Nix that Willis lost out to, according to
Okay.
Charlie Brown. So there you go. Thank you, Charlie. Dave and Alex, this comes from John Pennington. Any idea who the next O line coach will be, or do you guys, or you guys have in mind? It's kind
We
of
we
the
talked about it on the podcast this morning.
Yeah, I know Dave suggested Mike or more Doug Marone. The more general consensus or thought or hope is Mike Munchak. It certainly could be someone else. I saw Aaron Cromer just got hired by the Bills. That's a really quality hire for Buffalo. I would have liked to see him in Pittsburgh. And the guys they interviewed last year, James Campen, Hank Frelly, have both are with teams right now, and so it's very unlikely to be either of those guys. Campen just got hired, so it will not be him. Do I have a name in mind? I want to. I mentioned the guy last year. I forget his name. He was out there in San Francisco. Forrester, I think was his name. I forget what his name was. I'll have to see what he's up to. But we'll see. I do not know.
Did you just hit the Jaguars are hiring Mike McCoy as
No,
a quarterback coach? Okay. Oh, I thought it said for a moment. Okay, I didn't read that right. Okay, but Jaguars have a new quarterback coach in Mike McCoy. Wasn't he with the Chargers and the Broncos for a little while?
that sounds
McCoy.
right. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure. But yeah, Jaguars, and as most teams are building out their staff, the Saints just hired Dennis Allen. So every head coaching vacancy has been filled. And so those teams will now kind of nail down their coaching staffs. And that should finalize
I
things.
think I like the chances of it being Doug Moreau or Mike Munchak from where I sit right now. No, it doesn't. Haven't drilled down very deep right now. Been obviously busy with the All Star game stuff and all like that. But I mean, I would think they would want a more experienced guy this time around after having Clem, and then you're going to have a fairly you're probably going to have a fairly young offensive line again for the most part this off season or this coming season for sure. So I mean, Munchak or Marone to me makes the most sense. I wouldn't be so. I'd be so from where I sit right now. I'd be surprised if it's not one of those two guys.
Yeah, a couple more comments here. Jarrell or Gerald, might be saying that incorrectly. I think of the town in Oklahoma that got hit by that big tornado in the '90s. So I'll say Gerald. Alex, did you see my comment above? I'm not sure which one you're referring to. Feel free to post it again, and maybe I'll see it this time. Apologize for that. Let's see. Tim Chase, I think Dave has a great idea on backup running backs. Bring in 5 undrafted free agents to compete. So you got an endorsement there, Dave.
Hey, why wouldn't you? And send your scouts to all the preseason games for some of these young rookies or whatnot. That's the way I would approach it.
Yeah. AR2K7 says Mason Rudolph, baby. So there's a Rudolph fan here in the chat. Shoe41231 says, so why are the Steelers not looking at Gardner Minshew for quarterback? His cost is a mid to late round pick and is definitely an upgrade over current quarterbacks on the roster. A, how do we know they're not looking at him? Just because you're not hearing about it does not mean it's not necessarily happening. And B, is he might be an upgrade over Rudolph and Haskins, but is he an upgrade over the field and other guys you could bring? Is it worth spending a mid round pick when you have very few of those to begin with on a guy that, is that very much fringe starter? And that might be being generous with the evaluation of a Minshew mania.
And look, yeah, unfortunately, I think you're going to see, Minshew came out of that air raid, right? And some of these guys are just kind of maybe system quarterbacks. Is Carson Strong going to end up being a kind of guy that you better have kind of an air raid similar type system for him to succeed, and you better have a damn good offensive line that can block in front of him as well too. There, so uh, look, I mean, I what for one thing, Minshew, why would you trade him away unless you got a decent quality pick based on the salary that he's earning? So you got to look at it from the other side of the equation too. Does another team, if they're comfortable with Minshew, at least as a backup for what he's earning, do they just want to give him away for like a sixth or seventh round pick? That doesn't, to me, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Hmm. Yeah, it's a really good point. I know C. Bizzle said the same. You think Philly would trade Minshew for a late round pick versus keeping him for cheap backup play if Hurts falters or gets hurt. So, yeah,
Here's what Minshew set to earn: $2.54 million in 2022. If you're comfortable with him at the very least of being your backup, then why are you going to trade that away for like a measly sixth or seventh round draft pick? Now, if you want to give me a third or a fourth or something, let's talk. But a team would be silly to try to, in my opinion, to trade that away unless they really thought Gardner Minshew could be the quarterback of for the next couple of years here. So I know it's easy to look at it from one side, from your favorite team side, but look at it from the team that has the player as well too. Now, if he was earning $12.54 million, it's a little bit different story at that point. But teams need backup quarterbacks too, and if they're comfortable with them, especially, I mean, 2.54 million, that's cheap. Why wouldn't you hold on to a
yeah.
guy like that?
Yeah, there's a lot of comfort there in having that quality backup quarterback for cheap money on your roster for sure. A couple more questions I want to hit before we wrap things up. Reginald Rivers, I would love Calvin Austin as a Steelers receiver to replace Ray Ray. Yeah, there's a little bit of that quick twitch. I think Austin's probably faster overall, but yeah, Austin had a good week in Mobile, which some of those one on ones he's going to succeed being a quick twitch kind of guy. A lot of space to run in, but a nice week for Calvin Austin. Got a chance to talk to him and a good guy to speak with.
Out of Randy Fichtner's program
Yeah,
in college, right?
Little Memphis action there
Boy,
for sure.
what a baby face he has, man. Boy, that cut that he had at that uh the day that you weren't allowed at the indoor facility
Thursday.
there. Holy moly, let's stop on a dime and give you 9 cents change.
Yep, for sure. Someone that was eye level with me or close to eye level, which was nice when talking to all these big guys. Gerald, I was saying, did the Rams prove that more teams need to be more aggressive in the offseason? I think proves too strong. I think trying to follow a specific team's blueprint and model can be tough to do. We've seen teams be aggressive and it not work out. Sometimes it does work out. So, you know, I don't think it I think proving is probably too strong of a word there.
No, there's a lot of different ways you can bake a cake, right?
Yeah, well, you're going all Tom Brady on me there. I like it. Mike Adesso, two guys that stood out at Mobile that you would love to see the Steelers draft. I'll give you, and I can give a lot of answers here, but one on offense, one defense. Zion Johnson from BC, play him at guard, maybe at center, but just a really good player, good drive blocker. It's going to help with your run game for sure. A lot longer, stronger than, more technically sound than Kendrick Green is. And then defensively, Jalen Petre from Baylor, played that rover, slot safety position, physical, good ball skills, nice athlete, smart guy, good coaching. Potential, I think, a good slot fit in Pittsburgh. I know Norwood needs to get play time, and he played well, but just from watching him and just enjoying the game and the physicality of his game, even in 7-on-7s, Petre was mixing it up, and so fun guy to watch.
I think we have a profile coming from Dan Kitchen. I think is doing a
Yes.
profile on him.
Yeah, and so I'm excited to read that, but a guy that definitely grabbed my attention in Mobile. Quality Cola, slate to the stream. Hit that like button, Yins. Have a blessed one, Dave and Alex, my favorite for sports and Steelers content. Thank you so much. Glad you could be here. You can catch the archive version of this there on the channel or on Steelers Depot in a little bit. John Pennington, is this the beginning of the long road finding a quarterback like after Bradshaw? Potentially. No one knows. It could be quick. It could be a long time. The Patriots turned around within a year. Some teams take forever, like Pittsburgh did. You hope it's sooner than later. There is really just we'll have to wait and see. There is no magic number to it.
Yeah, there's no look. If it was a science, a lot of teams would have franchise quarterbacks in place, but and the miss rate wouldn't be there, right? So You go through the process as best you can, and evaluate, and take a shot there. And we'll obviously have to see what the Steelers end up doing, and if they do draft a quarterback, we'll see. Time will tell if they made the right choice. So it's hard to say that it'll be X amount of years, but
Yeah.
it's important to remind everybody that it was X amount of years too.
Yeah, 83 to '04, long, long time. Two more questions. Lumberzack94. Hey guys, do we see Kendrick Green in any way, shape, or form being the starter at center? Meaning, do you foresee the Steelers trying to go after a center or position versatile player in free agency or the draft with? Is there a scenario in which Green starts at center next year? Yeah, I think there is. I think Tomlin and this team's probably more optimistic about him, partially because they're the team who drafted him than probably us on the outside are. But you'd like to think they're going to make a push to do something a bit different in the offseason.
Look, I mean, I don't think you can rule anything out when it comes to center right now. And the way they kind of frame things at the end of the season, there, it's they're definitely not ready to throw Kendrick Green out with the bathwater, and nor should they be. I mean, you got to find out if the kid can play anywhere, and if the years experience, how much can he grow during the off season? I know you posted something earlier today, Alex, about him showing up, shown with Marquise Pouncey. That's probably not a bad place to start
Hmm.
when it comes to your off-season work and all like that. But the fact of the matter is, the kids got to stay off the ground first and foremost. You're not going to block anybody on the ground when you're on the ground as much as he is. Yeah, I don't care how good of center you become technically, and Lord knows he's got a lot of development to come in that area there. But if you're on the ground as much as he was on the ground last year, I don't care how much you grow technically. It's
Yeah.
not going to work out for you that way. I'll if you want to try to move him to guard, have at it. But once again, a guard on the ground is the same as a center on the ground there. So no, they should not cut him during the offseason there. But as I said earlier in this very Q&A session, man, you better have some sort of plan that you can turn to, not named J.C. Hassenauer.
Right. I will say if he grows technically, he should be on the ground a lot less because you're usually on the ground for technical issues rather than a physical or lack thereof trait.
We'll
So
see.
yeah, we will see. Last one comes, speaking of Kendrick Green and Marquise Pouncey from Todd, says, can the Pouncey brothers elongate Green's arms? And so, yeah, I don't think they can do that. Pouncey's arms are not that much longer than Kendrick Green's. He's just a more technical player and a taller and just a bigger guy overall. But, I mean, his length, he had like half-inch longer arms than Kendrick Green did. But obviously, the hand use is the most important thing. It's what you do with the hands and the arms.
I'm I'm not opposed to experimenting with some alternative forms that you maybe. Is there any kind of rack that you can put somebody on and kind of stretch them?
I do not know. I don't know. I don't want to answer that legally or morally speaking.
Uh,
All right, I think that does it for. I don't see any other recent questions here, so it's 8:02. Appreciate you guys being here. Like I said, we'll have some more Steelers content. If you guys want to see anything in particular, you can send something on Twitter in the chat here briefly, or community tab. Maybe I'll start asking around what you guys want to see here in the off season. Eventually, I'll do mock drafts, but I'm not going to do a mock draft every single day just for the clicks and stuff like that. But let me know what you guys want to see as we transition into the draft and off season. So appreciate you guys being here. Be back in 2 weeks, Dave and I. And Dave, as always, thanks for being here with us.
Thank you for doing these, Alex, and thank you for everybody for showing up. Peace and love, and we appreciate your time tonight. Thank you.
Again, you guys can see an archived and replayed version of this on the channel in a little bit, and also going up on Steelers Depot in about an hour, give or take, as well. So appreciate you guys being here, and we'll talk to you soon.